Here is my go by, which is
my name, Rachel Bowman.
2 index cards. That's my go by. Alright. Alright, here you go. Make sure you get all 5 people during the speech. 1. No, I'm just kidding. It's a speech. Alright, so basically what we're going to be going over is how to study for the advancement exam and how you can ace the advancement exam.
Hi.
Corpsman specifically, we've got a more difficult challenge because we have a lot of material that we have to go over. So if you take my advice, then you can ace the advancement exam. Guaranteed. There's no doubt about it. I can guarantee it. Even the people who are pessimistic. So, how many people have taken the advancement exam? Alright. Has anyone not taken the advancement exam?
Yeah.
Alright, so this could definitely benefit you guys, especially since you should be taking it next week? A couple weeks from now? Okay, March. Alright. So basically, what is the test? How is the test set up? We've got a point system, which is set up with a couple of different things. You've got the exam standard score. This is what you scored out on the test out of a possible 80 points. 80 possible points. The P&A is 90 points. That's your eval. So what are we learning right now? The eval is worth more than the entire test score. If you can get an EP in 90, then you've already got 90 points before you even sign your name on the test. And that person can only get a possible 80. And just to give you an example, I got a 75.59 and I studied my butt off, so barely anybody gets a perfect score. So, PMA, like I said, it's possible 90. That's what you get on your eval. The average person gets maybe an 80, 75. And the average person on the test gets maybe a 60, 62, something like that. Service and pay grade, this is the points you're given based on how long you've been in your respective rank. Basically, if you've been in for 5 years, then you'll get a couple more points added. It's very few amount of points. It's not worth much. You've got the awards. That's a total of points on each award. I mean, there's a couple of points there. Could make or break you depending on how well you study. And then you've got your education points. You get 2 per degree. Barely anybody in this room probably has any of those, but that's okay. And then P&A points, these are tallied up from your points earned from previous exams passed but not advanced. That's probably what, like 2.5 points, I believe. So if you want to go to the next one. So, keep going. This is the calculation, like we were just talking about. You can just read this over as I go through it. Basically, this is the specific calculation and how you can tell how many points you'll have before going into the advancement exam to see how well you should study. Obviously, your exam standard score, that's your 80. That's the only one that you can really affect before you take the test for studying for. So that's the point system. Secondly, test questions are geared towards your rating. There's a lot of BMR. Honestly, I would not even study the BMR. On y'all's, I think the new updated test is 100 occupational and 25 BMR. So why study those 25 if you can get 100 questions on the Corpsman exam out of Corpsman questions? So how do we study? You go over the bib, and the bib is, I don't know if it's on here or not, but the bib is basically a bibliography, and it has all the occupational references as well as the BMR. So this is telling you every single thing to study for. The Chiefs took everything that's on the bib, all of those instructions, went through them with a fine comb, and said, this is a question that we want people to know. This is a question that we expect them to know. Anything in the Corpsman manual that's bold, underlined, they repeat it. For an example, immunizations is not only in the Corpsman manual, it's also in immunizations, chemoprophylaxis, and recommendations for immunizations. 3 different instructions with that one thing. So you better know the right dose for anthrax. So, that's the bib. Once you print out your bibs, you need to go through, make a plan of action on how to study. The best way to know any questions the chief might throw at you is to read the entire instruction. That's when we go over our next topic, is read the instruction. That's what I did. Every single occupational reference. Immunizations, chemoprophylaxis, Corpsman manual, read the entire thing. I read every single one of those. And as I was reading it, I was creating a summary. I was writing it down. So, pharmacy, this is the UMed instruction 21.530. Whatever it is, write it down. Because once you keep writing it, you've got that summary. I don't have to read the 70 pages of food safety anymore. I can read the 5-page summary that I've just created. So it's going to benefit you in the long run. So once you've created those summaries, not only have you read it, so it's already in your mind, you've written it down, so it's now in the back of your mind because you've written it with your hand, and now you can study those summaries over and over and over. And they get a fellow friend to just quiz you, question after question after question. That's how we learn. Repetition, repetition. There's no way that you're going to keep all this in your mind, but for the 3 months that you have to study, that's the best way to do it. Quiz yourself. And just some easy tips for taking the advancement exam that I've noticed. Data dumping. I did a class over the advancement exam over here with data dumping. It's basically anything that you can memorize in a short and sweet answer form, such as vitamin B1 all the way to A, D, E, diet therapy, hematocrit levels, hemoglobin, white blood cells. These are just statistics and numbers that you can just pop off. They give you a blank piece of paper right when you sit down. They give it to you, right? That's one of the things they give to you. How many of you guys actually write, that have taken it, how many of you guys actually write and use that? And how often do you use it? Front and back. You take 20 minutes to just dump as much information as possible. And that's what I did on my last advancement exam. ManMed chapters, PrevMed chapters, chapter 21, everything. I just data dumped it. I had front and back the entire thing. And I can guarantee you it was almost 20 to 25 questions that I basically had a cheat sheet that I had already had from memorizing it. So data dumping, that's number one. Don't second guess. The odds are, go with your gut. The first answer that you pick, you don't want to come back through and be like, oh, well, this answer looks good too. You want to guess the right one. The odds are, your mind, you're like, that looks right first time, just leave it. Just leave it. You don't want to second guess and come back. The only time you want to do that, if you do not know a question, 100% without a doubt, you do not know this question, you want to circle the question and come back to it. Alright? So if you end up circling 50 questions, 100 questions, guess what? You just come back to all the ones that you circled. And there were some questions that I didn't know, so I circled them. Literally, there was 10 questions that I did not know for sure from reading the entire instruction. So I came back after I was done with the entire exam. I was like, alright, I circled this one for a reason. I didn't know it. I answered it after that. And the odds are that there's a question in the future on that test that, for example, if they say, alright, what's the proper way to administer anthrax injection? 0.5 ml sub-Q, 0.5 ml IM. And then secondly, there's another question, like, question 5, that's the question for anthrax. Question 100. The proper way for anthrax is this. Now, what are the different pieces of information that you need for it? So it just gave you the answer for a different question. That's why I would circle it. If you do not know it, circle it, come back. Thirdly, time. People are always worried about time. Oh yeah, I was in and out of there in an hour. Okay, that's good. If you actually did good, then that's great. But don't worry about time. You've got like 3 hours, I think, to take this thing. Now you've got 125 questions. It's easy. And fourthly, it might sound stupid, but if you got to get up and go use the restroom, screw it. Just raise your hand. Hey, I got to take a break. I got to take a breather. This is too much information. I can't deal with it. Just take your time, relax, go with your first instinct, and basically, that's the best way to study for the advancement exam. So what have we talked about? We talked about the best way to study. Read the entire instruction. It's all in your mind. The Chiefs read the entire instruction, did questions, right? The Chiefs went through and selected specific questions. Making a summary, there's no way that you did not get any question that the Chiefs selected. That's basically the logic that I used. If I've made a summary of every important piece of information, then I've got every single possible question that the Chiefs could have selected. Study that information, quiz yourself. So hopefully you guys will use this advice in studying for your next advanced exam.